heard a million takes on narcissism, but maybe you haven't heard this one. I'm the goddamn Jane Goodall of narcissism. Difference is, I don't think she ever believed she was the chimp. I used to think the core cause was childhood trauma, but my experience and the research are pointing at something else. Environments that reward control, power imbalances, impunity, and a chorus of enablers. The narcissist is an empty vessel desperate to avoid threat who does what works, and the environment determines what works. They adapt faster than the DSM updates, so here's the only definition that I think matters. Entitlement to evade any perceived threat at all costs. If exploiting you, rewriting facts, or rallying a mob makes them safer, it qualifies. They don't have to be masterminds for it to look sneaky. They're obeying a hair-trigger nervous system that screams survive in a culture where accountability is vulnerability, and they can't have that. I thought I was a narcissist because I confused my reactivity to narcissistic games for authenticity. Don't play for the crowd. Protect your reality. Here are my quick survival cues. 1. If every problem is your fault, run. 2. Fear hypocrisy more than dysregulation. 3. Clear boundaries invite growth. Vibes of disapproval do not. 4. Feeling bad is reason enough to leave. And 5. Always factor power dynamics into your assessment of any behavior. There's a full breakdown with sources on my Substack. Go read the article. For the extroverted ADHDer, socializing can feel like an extreme sport. Thrilling highs, brutal lows. And lurking in the shadows is something I call the social urgency gremlin. That's the little voice that says we need to get close fast, push harder, move faster. And then you watch your intensity scare people off, which convinces the gremlin you just weren't intense enough. Here's what I think people don't explain well. Community and friendship are not the same thing. Community is easy, just keep showing up and don't be a jerk. Friendship involves vulnerability. You gotta earn trust, and that takes time. And if you let the gremlin rush it, you'll get exploitation, not love. People who reel you in instantly want something from you. People who are safe are going to reject your gremlin's demands. You can read the whole survival guide on my Substack for tips. We're going to talk about finding a social setting where your ADHD chatter is welcome, how waiting for invitation is a myth. It's your job to maintain your position in social chains, and how keeping your work and your social life separate is paramount unless you want heartbreak on tap. Bottom line, self-love first. Safe people can't reach you until you're a safe space for yourself. Full articles on my Substack. You've got ADHD and zero shame? Good. Let's talk silly life hacks that actually work. For all my self-destructive executive dysfunction chaos, I've got my home life skills situation locked down. Dishes done, bills paid, room tidy. How do I do it? By embracing ridiculousness. Hack number 1. In the shower, when a bottle's empty, yeet it over the curtain. Yes, you'll hear it thud on the ground and feel like a cave person, but future you is gonna see it when you step out of the shower vortex. Hack 2. The memory name game. Meeting a group out in meat space? Point at each of them and repeat their names in a mixed up order. Curly, Wendy, Toodles, Lindsay, Wendy, Toodles. People laugh, you remember longer, and they remember you tried. Hack 3. Break the monotony. Dabble in a little controlled nonsense. Wiggle. Make noises. Walk a new block. Novelty resets the brain without nuking your routine. Hack 4, I call the temporal trinity. Past you, present you, and future you are all 3 different people. Point your people-pleasing energy their direction. Thank past you for coming through for present you. Past you put the scissors where present you could find them. Thank them, and do similar favors for future you. And the temporal trinity will be best friends. For more tips like this, check out the full article on my Substack. No shame, just systems that fit your brain. So you don't want to get triggered all the time, but you also don't want to gaslight yourself in a world full of real danger, do you? I've been binge reading Dr. Catherine M. Pittman's work on anxiety. Why, yes, I do have issues with chronic debilitating anxiety. Sup, ladies? She talks a lot about the amygdala, which is like your brain's car alarm. As you're well aware, when your car alarm goes off, that doesn't necessarily mean it's really getting stolen, only that you should go out and check. And, turn it off so that you don't drive everybody insane. But if you're like me, you're probably sick of turning off your alarm for everybody else's comfort. That's why reading Pittman got me thinking about the importance of differentiating what I'm calling primal threats from civil threats. Primal threats are like the edge of a cliff, an animal running into the road, or a gun to your head, where there's a need for fight, flight, freeze. Civil threats are like unpaid bills, stacked deadlines, public embarrassment, things that run on calendars, policies, and conversations. Physical threat is possible, but on a huge lag. When our amygdala treats a civil threat like it's a primal threat, we lose access to our problem-solving cortex. We panic when we need planning. So the work isn't pretending these threats aren't real. It's training the alarm system to cool off in the face of civil threats when the frontal lobe needs to lead. If you want to explore this idea in more detail, you can read the full article on my Substack. If you're demand avoidant, this might change your life. I know how clickbaity that sounds, but it changed mine. It was like uncovering the Higgs boson of all my personal dysfunction. You ready? Here it is. Avoiding overt demands invites covert demands. If you freak out whenever people straight up ask for something, you end up with the people who don't straight up ask. People who just take. Manipulators. The more we reject honest requests, the more vulnerable we are to dishonest extractions. This is what demand avoidance can do. Trick us into thinking we're defending our autonomy, when we're really just handing it to the worst kinds of people. People who pluck our strings like we're guitars. We end up doing 10 times the labor for people without the guts or the integrity to be open about what they want. Let me tell you what it took me far too long to figure out. A life of zero demands is impossible. Our autonomy is in choosing our demands, learning to tolerate healthy ones, so we don't get buried in shady ones. We're the boss, not our volatile nervous system. It works for us. If you want to hear more about this, get examples, I dig deeper on my Substack. Go read the article. If you want to, of course. You're the boss. I recently defined narcissism as entitlement to evade anything perceived as threat at all costs. But if that's the case, why do so many narcissists seem cruel just for sport? After going down some Epstein and Sean Combs rabbit holes, I decided that felt like a loose end I wanted to tie off, so here's an update. Narcissists don't control themselves, they control other people. When they have a dark urge, they don't fight it, they fortify it, with things like lawyers and handlers and blackmail and intimidation. The issues with Epstein and Combs aren't just about assault. They're about the massive machines they built to protect their entitlement to keep assaulting. Which brings us right back to my original position, entitlement to evade anything perceived as threat at all costs. Even if that threat is a victim with backbone saying no. I don't fold ugly impulses into my definition out of respect for people who control them. Plenty of neurodivergent people have scary thoughts, but they shouldn't be categorized alongside the world's monsters. If they choose community over compulsion, that grit, bravery, and sense of personal responsibility is the opposite of narcissism. Having demons doesn't make you dangerous. Unleashing them with impunity does. If you want to explore these ideas in more detail, including how all of this connects back to my earlier piece, I've got it all up on my Substack.